Thank you for tuning in again. My name is Karen Brar with the Hidden Wealth Foundation, and I have my wonderful co-host here with me, Mr. Raman Singh. Hi, Raman. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Good, good. I like the turban. Green looks good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So today we are speaking to Nicole Linder from the Marjaree Mason Center. She's the executive for the Marjaree Mason Center, which helps our community when it comes to domestic violence. And right now, especially in this time of need, I think it's important for us to hear from Nicole and see how we can step up to help as a community. Nicole.
Hi.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
So I'm jealous because you guys have beautiful bright colors on, and here I am. I'm going to wear yellow tomorrow. So how's it going? You're the executive of Marjaree Mason Center, and I know that you've been serving in that position for quite a while. We just wanted to check in on you and see, how is the center dealing with everything that's going on, and how our community can step up to help.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I think like any organization, we've had to make a lot of changes. Many of our employees are providing telehealth, mental health from home, a remote conferencing. We have moved some of our groups that used to be in person. We're trying to get those operational via Zoom or RingCentral or some form of technology, as you are trying to use here as well. We have deployed multiple people to beef up our crisis response team. What we're seeing here is that we have a little bit of a roller coaster as it relates to calls for help. Some days are very, very quiet, and then others days are very, very full. And people are reaching out to us in different ways. As you can imagine, there are a lot of people, due to shelter in place, who have been cooped up in the same unit together. Domestic violence, as we know, is all about power and control, which means people have less opportunities to use the phone and call for help. So they are reaching out to us in different ways, which we are grateful for, and we are making sure that we have a very, very full and robust team to respond at that moment.
How many people do you have in your staff total?
Our total staff is about 100. We have had to reduce our staff a little bit, so some of that is a little bit smaller because we are not facilitating groups right now, so we have many group facilitators, and we're hoping to bring that operational using technology. As you know, most of us nonprofits weren't set up with a robust structure to be able to handle those things, so we're quickly, like a hamster wheel, trying to get those done because they are important to us. And whether they are groups for victims or they are groups for people who have been convicted of domestic violence, our goal is to make sure that they have the resources that they need so that we can stop the cycles of violence in our community.
Have you seen it spike, Nicole, because of the COVID-19 situation?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we did, and then sometimes it's quiet. So the very first week of shelter in place, we saw a 30% increase. I believe the Sheriff's Department saw at least a 50% increase. And then we had a week where it was really, really quiet. And to be honest, we get nervous when it's quiet because we know that domestic violence is still happening. And so we worry about people that are experiencing it and not being able to call. So what I will say is the cases that we are seeing, whether or not they are in times of high volume or low volume, is that they seem to be a lot more intense and the cases seem to be a lot more severe. And just so you know, it's not. I mean, if you can, anybody can Google domestic violence and COVID-19 to see that countries that were further ahead of us in experiencing this virus also documented the same types of increases in domestic violence. It's just that the United States is a little bit further behind. And the reality is Fresno County has the highest per capita call rates for all large cities in the state of California for domestic violence, so we're already high. And it's just it's a clash of both the situations at the same time.
So
Nicole, my question to you is that do you receive, how many calls do you receive from a South Asian community, or specifically, I will say, Indian community, and how much is a follow-up call?
How much is a what cost?
How many calls do you receive on a yearly basis from a South Asian community or Indian community?
So, we report what people tell us. I know that we had a little less than 50 that were Punjabi speaking as primary language, and as we know in our community, most of our community speaks English, and so those were folks that documented that their primary language was Punjabi. But we also have multiple people that choose not to share what their ethnicity is. And we see them for different reasons. Some of them need a whole year of support. Some of them need emergency shelter. They need help with a restraining order. They need counseling. The level of support extends throughout the year, and obviously that's very, very staff and labor intensive. And then some just need help with a restraining order. What we have noticed oftentimes with specifically our Indian community is that oftentimes it requires law enforcement. I get asked a lot of the times, how do people find you? And I think there's definitely a fear to seek help. And so I always encourage people, please don't be afraid to either call us or call law enforcement. If you call us and you're in the middle of a situation, we're going to get law enforcement on the phone for you, because we are not at that same level of response. But we can help you safety plan. We can help you figure out how to exit safely.
So another thing right over here, another question is that, what kind of services, if we can get like a, kind of like a list of services that you provide to the community itself?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So we have 24/7 crisis response. We have somebody on our hotline every hour of the day, and that's our most critical piece. They're there to help people just process what they're going through, get them connected to resources, safety plan, do an assessment, and let them know what kind of services we offer. Then the next would obviously be our emergency and transitional housing. So for people that their own home is unsafe and they need a safe place to stay, we offer emergency and transitional housing support. And that could, for some that we're working with, if they qualify, up to a year. But the goal is to make sure that families are not tasked with the decision of either staying in an unsafe home or being homeless. And so that's really why we exist. And it's also why individuals fleeing domestic violence are technically considered homeless, because their own home is unsafe. We provide court accompaniment when the courts are open, although we are still assisting people because the courts are still seeing domestic violence cases, as well as assisting with restraining orders. So that's really important for people to know. Sometimes we hear messages of the courts are closed and how would I even protect myself, but the courts have really made great lengths to make sure that people in abusive homes are protected. We have advocates that work with specifically law enforcement. So we have advocates that are part of the Fresno Police Department Domestic Violence Unit. They respond out on calls. They follow up to make sure that that victims get access to restraining order information and also our services, one at the sheriff's office, and then we work with the other law enforcement jurisdictions. And then counseling. Counseling is hugely important to make sure that people, at some point the bruise will fade, any sort of physical injury will go away, but the psychological and emotional effects of domestic violence can last a lifetime. And our goal is to make sure that the individuals have the mental health support to assist them through their lifelong journey for both the adults and the children. We do work with the offenders, and that is important for us because we feel like everybody has the opportunity to change. And most of violence is learned behavior. So what I will say is those who have been in our batterers intervention program or taken anger management from us oftentimes have experienced abuse themselves. And so making sure that they get the tools necessary and resources available. And then lastly, like one of our primary functions as an agency is to try and prevent and end the cycle of violence. And that includes education, both for our high school and junior high and college students, and making sure that people have the tools necessary to even understand how to recognize a healthy relationship from an unhealthy one. There was some research available that said that 75% of adults and parents think that they've talked to their teens about teen dating violence and healthy relationships. And yet I think 65% of girls and 75% of boys say that their parents have never talked to them about these types of things. And it is 2020, and our goal is to make sure that no longer are we saying that these topics are taboo, but the reality is that we know that if as a community and as a culture we're willing to stop these generational cycles of unhealthy relationships, it's going to take each of us both in the home and out of the home talking about it.
You know, Nicole, I think that's really important that you mentioned that, because there's a lot of misconceptions about what domestic violence is, right? And it's just with married couples, you know, even with bisexual relationships, you know, when you're dating, so intimate partners, right? So what are some other misconceptions about domestic violence, and when is it that you would recognize it as domestic violence? Because in our community and many other cultures, a lot of stuff is kind of normal, right? So how do you speak to that?
Well, I mean, honestly, we try to tell people that a healthy relationship is built on mutual love and respect, and not power and control. And really, I have to take whatever your circumstance is to say, is this person trying to control me, or is this person showing me love and respect by the way they're taking care of me? And yes, there's not a single culture in our community, in our world, that says that marriages or relationships should be thrown out and tossed out, right? We know they're hard. We know we're supposed to work towards them, but there's a big difference between miscommunication, misunderstanding, and power, control, and abuse. As you mentioned, most people think this is as just a man versus woman thing, and that's the farthest thing from the truth. We have clients who are in our program that are males that are victims of domestic violence. As you mentioned, it's not confined to heterosexual relationships, and so making sure that people understand that we are here to support everybody. We're not just a women's shelter. I think people still think that we're just a shelter for women and children, but we are here to help survivors of domestic violence. As you mentioned, most people think of domestic violence also as physical abuse. And there are often times that maybe the abuse is just emotional. And I say just because emotional is very, very challenging and hard, but a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their arms around, like, what does that mean and what does that look like? But somebody who is constantly putting the other person down, telling them that they are stupid or fat, telling them that they are not worthy. There's something called gaslighting, which is really making the person believe that things happen that they didn't actually do. But at some point, the victim feels responsible for the abuse that they're getting. A very common one is financial abuse. Not letting the partner having control or access to any of their money. And that's even individuals who have their own job. They still have no access to their own money, or telling their partner what they can and can't spend money on. And I will tell you that this one's probably going to flare up a lot right now, right? People's finances are tight. Some people are going to get a check from the government, and really being able to have a healthy conversation, and not being told what they can and can't do with those resources. The other, obviously, is sexual abuse, and whether that is either access to birth control, forcing somebody to have children when they are not ready, and then the obvious, this is Sexual Assault Awareness Month as well. And so just making sure that we remind people that a large portion of sexual victims are assaulted by somebody that they're actually in an intimate relationship with.
So Nicole, what's the process if I knew of somebody that needs help right now? And with like you said, not just, I always say my community, but any community, you know, I know that it's kind of don't talk about it, you know, and there's a lot that goes into getting the courage to step up. And so what is the process? If there is somebody in my community that is looking for help, what can I know there's a hotline number that I can give where there is somebody on the other end that speaks Punjabi or any other language. But once they do that, what happens? Do they get interviewed? And from there, where do they
I think it's gonna depend on each person because their situation is unique. But we encourage them to call the hotline. They can email the hotline at crt@mmcenter.org. And where that person is, if they're ready to leave, if they're not ready to leave, if they just want information, it really is going to depend on the individual, which is why we make sure that we have that hotline staffed appropriately to make sure that we can take time with each person and help understand what it is that they need, but more importantly, what it is that they want to do. Because everybody is on their own journey. And as you mentioned it, Karen, that that's a really brave step because it's a really brave thing to do. I just want to take the moment to let people know that they're not alone. You know, we're in this period of shelter in place. Almost every person and every survivor that I talk to feels already completely isolated and they feel that they're alone. And so that's probably the number one thing we're here to do is to let people know that they're not alone and that there is help and we're here to help them access that.
Yeah, I'm grateful to have you guys. Another question I had is, I know that there are, first you get calls and then the person actually comes in. So if I were to ask you from our, the South Asian community, you know, Indian, Punjabi, whatnot, whenever you get a call, how many of those calls actually end up coming in and using the services? Because I know it's easier to get on the phone and discuss your issues, but taking that step is not as easy. So how many do you get? How many calls do you get, and how many actually follow through and come into the center and meet with somebody?
Yeah, I don't have that data accessible to me right now as far as understanding that percentage. I will say with this current COVID-19 challenge, we have moved to a virtual or phone assessment, and that's again to eliminate interactions with people. You know, we're trying to follow the state mandate of 6 foot physical distancing, and really trying to encourage shelter in place as much as possible. So we tried to streamline access to those services by remote assessments as much as possible. So I don't have the data on that. I would let you know that I would encourage people to make sure that they call.
The first step is the call that they can make, and I think then afterwards, you know, they just need to keep up with it. And another question, Nicole, that, you know, how about the seniors? I mean, do you get anybody that was senior that they comes in as a victims?
Yeah, we absolutely do. And I should clarify that at the Marjorie Mason Center, we serve intimate partner violence. Sometimes domestic violence also includes elder abuse. So we definitely serve seniors as it relates to intimate partner violence. And we are there to support them in the same ways possible. As I mentioned before, you know, COVID-19 has changed things for everybody. And so we are doing our best to make sure that people have adequate resources that they need in spaces that are also safe and appropriate to give people that same physical distancing. But yeah, we always have some seniors that we are serving here at the agency.
And Nicole, how long can someone have shelter there with the Marjorie Mason Center?
It really just depends, again, on their individual circumstance. Typically, the average stay is about 30 to 34 days. That is due to the fact that it takes about 28 days to get a court date for a restraining order. But there are some people, again, if they are here without family, and specifically if we're going to talk about the Indian community, there's a lot of people whose family are not in this country. They came here with their spouse or sponsored by their spouse, and they are isolated from the rest of their family. And those individuals, their stay needs to be longer. As mentioned, dependent on the actual individual and what they need and what is available to them, and the programs that we offer and whether or not they can qualify. That can be up to a year. But our goal is to make sure that as the best of our ability, we can house them as long as we're able. I should clarify that many of our longer term housing programs are funded by government grants. And so each of them have different regulations and stipulations. And so that's why we do take each case on an individual basis to say, what can they qualify for that we have available? And if not, can we find them an additional resource? But the emergency shelter stay is about 30 to 34 days.
And is the services available 24/7 as the phone calls are attended 24/7?
Our hotline is available 24/7, correct.
Yeah, so I'm currently thinking of somebody, actually a couple of women, and one happens to, she just got employed, she's working, and she's got a child, and she needs childcare as well as a ride to work. So would Marjorie Mason be able to provide like a entire, through the process, do you guys provide childcare as well as trying to get them set up with transportation to work, or are you pretty limited to what you guys can do?
Yeah, so we are not licensed. We don't have a licensed daycare. So unfortunately, any of our children's enrichment programs are limited to our on-site work. So the parent does need to still be on-site. We do work with multiple child care providers to try and get them connected. Again, we're in a weird period because a lot of daycares have had to shut down due to the same reasons that we've discussed for group therapy and other things connected to COVID-19. But yes, everybody who is working in our program is assigned a case manager, and that case manager's job is to get them connected to as many resources that are available to them as possible. On a given year, we serve about 7,500 adults and children, so our volume is high, and that doesn't include the individuals in our Batterers Intervention Program. That was another 830 last year, adults, in addition to the school-based programs. So we try to stretch our resources as far as they can go to make sure that everybody who needs help gets it. But our resources are limited, so we try to provide what that individual person needs, and if they can fit into one of the programs, that's even better.
One of the things with Hidden Wealth that we're trying to do is form a support system, because as we discussed, it's tough, especially if you're new to this country, you don't speak the language, and if you have one person that's a translator or a therapist here and there, it's not compelling enough for that person there, to step out, opposed to having an entire support system from within the community that says, hey, we got you, and like I said, where Marjorie Mason isn't able to help, where we can step in and help that person out, whether it be with daycare or transportation. But I think it's very important that we get training. So that's another thing I was going to ask you, is that do you train other groups for, how to deal with domestic violence issues and what we can do to support individuals that come in?
Yeah, absolutely. Multiple times a year, we offer the 40-hour domestic violence counselor training certificate. And so we provide that open to it. We highly encourage, because we know we can't do this work alone. It does take a heavy lift from everybody in the community. And so our goal is, as much as possible, to train other leaders in the community, specifically within geographic spheres where we don't have an office. I think it's highly important, but also within multiple cultural groups, because it is important that somebody has somebody that they feel comfortable to talk to. And so, yes, we do offer that. It's typically on our website, and we usually push out some messages through social media when it's available. I would highly encourage people to go through the training. It's actually a really good comprehensive just overview of domestic violence. We have individuals from the district attorney's office who present. We have individuals from law enforcement. Some people come and talking about the overlap of either mental health, child abuse, substance use. So our goal is to really give a well-rounded overview of the impact of domestic violence, so that when you are working with somebody, you feel equipped to be able to do so.
So
absolutely. Go ahead, Karen.
So how can we help if you were to ask the community for assistance right now? Where are the areas that Marjorie Mason can really use community support?
Well, I think first and foremost, I want to echo what you were saying. Domestic violence is so pervasive in our community, and what they really need is they need individuals who will believe them. They need individuals who will believe them, and who will be there through the long haul. Law enforcement typically estimates it takes 7 calls for them to the same house before somebody is willing to leave. And sometimes there's apathy. We say, oh gosh, I tell this person to leave. I tell them all the time that this is a bad relationship they're in, but they never want to leave, and they always go back. And then we intuitively distance ourselves from them, and you get to the point where you feel like you don't want to wait around, and that's probably the worst thing for a survivor that you can do, because they really truly need people who are going to be there, who are going to believe them and be there when they are ready to seek help. The second is to take this time. We're all in shelter in place with our family and loved ones, and as hard of a conversation it is, the more conversations that we can have during this time about healthy relationships and healthy communication and identifying of red flags in a relationship, the better our community is going to be for the next 10 years. And so I would highly encourage you, be there for survivors, be ready and willing to help when they ask for it, but take this time to talk to your kids and your grandkids, and your sisters and brothers, and say, you know what, I've been listening to this show, and I want to take a moment and say, you know, maybe we didn't really model a good relationship. Maybe we didn't have anybody talk to us this before. I'm sure want to make sure that you are in a safe place, and that I've taken this time to have this conversation with you, and that you know that if you're ever not in a safe place, that I'm a safe person for you. So those 2 things are probably the primary thing we could do for each and every one of our families, for sure. Financially, the Marjaree Mason Center had to cancel our only fundraiser. We have one fundraiser a year, and it was on March 27th, which of course we had to cancel. And so anybody that is able and willing to make a donation, we would be so grateful for that. Our ability to serve survivors outside of the government grant programs is solely based on donations. You know, most of our grant programs are for things that are not shelter-based. Our shelter is only funded 25% on government grants. And so canceling the fundraiser had a direct impact on us. So if there are some that feel philanthropically led, I know that GiveHelpNow.org is doing matching funds, and we are blessed to be one of those recipients. So I think that would be a huge help. I'm pretty sure I think you talked to Mayor-elect Jerry Dyer about that previously. But those are the things that I would just be so grateful for. Again, be there for survivors. Let them know that you care and that you're here to help them. Talk to your family and friends, and if you are able, we would be so grateful for your donations.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to donate, like you said, it's wonderful to go through GiveHelpNow.org, because that doubles up, right? Whatever they give.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, they're matching donations through the month of April. So that would be fantastic. Alternatively, people can donate online at our website, which is mmcenter.org. And the information about our hotline is also on our website, as well as a lot of tools and resources about our classes that you mentioned, our trainings, making sure that there's information both on social media and on our website about healthy relationships, red flags, talking to your kids. So please check out either our Marjorie Mason Center social media or our youth teen dating violence prevention, which is called No More, KNOWMORE.
Well, we're definitely going to put this information out, and this is a topic that is not discussed enough. And I know I keep saying the Indian community, but I know every community is pretty much the same. But we're able to convey this information in Punjabi, so we're trying to do the best that we can. And I really do believe that we need to come on more and discuss this more and bring about more awareness. There's just not enough in the community. So thank you for everything that you're doing. And we are here to help as well. And after all of this is over, we're hoping to have a team of us, not just women, but men as well, come in and get your support on training us on what to look for and how we can step out in our community and give that support. And like you said, just have a person know that there is somewhere that they can go.
That would be fantastic. Our goal prior to COVID-19 was to continue to build our volunteer program. And once the restrictions due to COVID-19 are lifted, we will definitely be looking for more and more volunteers as well.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We did give through, helpnow.org. Maybe I'll call Jerry and say, hey, I direct these funds towards Marjorie Mason. And Dora, I know with Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation has done the same. They stepped up and matched our $1,000. So thank you for everything that you're doing. I know. So I'll get in touch with them and direct it towards Marjorie Mason.
Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate you, and I am just thankful for all the great work that you are doing for our entire community. It's really, really important. So I just want to let you know how much we appreciate you.
Teamwork.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Take care. Be safe.
Thank you. You too.
All right. So that was a great conversation. What are your thoughts on that, Raman? I think this is a topic that we do not discuss enough in our community, and we know why. It's, Loki Gange is a huge thing in our community. It's rather you commit crime, right? We'll go to the extent of committing crimes, but we don't want to be shamed, and we find so much shame in this.
I think ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੱਲ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਐਸਾ ਮੁੱਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਬੜਾ ਸੈਂਸਿਟਿਵ ਹੈਗਾ ਔਰ ਇਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੀ ਜਾਂ ਹੋਣੀ ਜਾਂ ਇਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਆ ਉਹ ਸੋਚਣੀ ਕਰਨੀ ਬੜਾ ਸੈਂਸਿਟਿਵ ਮੁੱਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਔਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਇਹ ਐਕਸਟੈਂਸਿਵ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਨੈਟਵਰਕ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦਾ ਅਜੇ ਵੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਆ ਪਰ ਕਿਤੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਤੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਕੱਲੇ ਪੈ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਐਕਸਟੈਂਸਿਵ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਜਾਂ ਐਕਸਟੈਂਸਿਵ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਇਹ ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਕਹਿਣ ਇਹਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਇਹਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਔਰ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਇਹ ਸੋਚ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜਨਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਆ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਕੰਟਰੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਗਏ ਆ ਇੱਥੇ ਲਾਈਫ ਨੂੰ ਬੜੇ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਮੰਨਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ
Yes. And, I think another thing that's important to note what Nicole said was that it's not that we don't honor marriage, okay? And this help isn't just for the victim, it's for the abuser as well. Most of the time when someone is abusing someone else, you can trace it back and see how they were brought up. So I think it's very important to note that marriage is a very, wonderful institution to be in. It's a great thing, and it's not that we're trying to break up homes or anything. And I think that's what happens in our community. Anybody who steps up to assist, it's like, they say stuff like "sadakar patrano," or stuff like that, right? And so we need to let people know that it's not just for the victim, but for the abuser as well. There's healthy ways of dealing with this and talking through it and healing more than anything. So I think it's very important for us to note that it's for everybody, not just for the abused or the victim.
ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਸਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ ਕਿਰਨ ਕੀ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਅਗੇਨ ਫੈਮਲੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਡੈਫੀਨੇਟਲੀ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰੀਜ਼ਨ ਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਜਾਂ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਆ ਕਿ ਔਰ ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਬੜੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਕਿ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਾਈਡ ਕਰਦਾ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਾਈਡ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੇ ਨੂੰ ਹੀ ਆਲਵੇਜ਼ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਕਿ ਇਹਨੇ ਖਰਾਬ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਂ ਇਹਨੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਕੀਤੀ ਆ, ਅਦਰਵਾਈਜ਼ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡਾ ਸਹੀ ਸਲਾਮਤ ਚਲਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ। ਸੋ ਉਹ ਸਹੀ ਸਲਾਮਤ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਚਲਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲਈ ਸਹੀ ਸਲਾਮਤ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੋਵੇ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਲਈ ਨਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਹੋਵੇ। ਔਰ ਅਬਿਊਜ਼ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਵੇਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ। ਇਟਸ ਨਾਟ ਜਸਟ ਆਪਣੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇੱਕੋ ਅਬਿਊਜ਼ ਇੱਕੋ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਅਬਿਊਜ਼ ਮੰਨਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਵੀ ਕੁੱਟ ਲਿਆ ਮਾਰ ਲਿਆ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਅਬਿਊਜ਼ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਉਹੀ ਸੋਚ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਅਬਿਊਜ਼ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ। ਪਰ ਬਿਸਾਈਡਸ ਉਹਦੇ ਦੇਰ ਇਜ਼ ਅ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਕਾਈਂਡ ਆਫ ਅਬਿਊਜ਼ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਮੈਂਟਲ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਸਟ੍ਰੈਸ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ, many things ਆ। ਔਰ ਅੱਜ ਦੀ ਤਰੀਕ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਘਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਔਰ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਦੇ ਸਮੱਖ ਹੈਗੇ, ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਦੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਔਰ ਘਰੇ ਬੈਠਣ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਮੌਕਾ ਮਿਲ ਰਿਹਾ, ਰਹਿਣ ਦਾ ਮੌਕਾ ਮਿਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਕੱਠਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ। ਸੋ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਈ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਫਲੇਅਰ ਅਪ ਹੋ ਜਾਣੀਆਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਆ ਔਰ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਆ, ਕੋਈ ਐਡੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ। ਪਰ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਸਿਚੁਏਸ਼ਨ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਤੇ ਐਟਲੀਸਟ ਕਾਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਲਾਹ ਲੈ ਲੈਣੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਵੱਧ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਬਦਤਰ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਜੀਣ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਤਾਂ ਚੰਗਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਸਲਾਹ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਤੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਹੱਲ ਕੱਢਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ।
And also, I want to share that it's not just women that get abused. Okay, we have men. Right in this last year, I've actually spoken to 2 men from our community where it's not the wife, just the wife, but it's the in-laws, and they're being abusive towards the male, and that's something. So it's even, I know it's tough for women, but for men, it's even more tough to stand up and speak out and to even recognize that I'm being bullied or abused, in any way. So it's not just women. I'm finding that men are in our community are just as vulnerable and subjected to abuse as the women are.
Yeah, so you're right. The men are also in the abusive system too. I mean, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਹੈਗਾ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੈਗਾ, ਇੱਥੇ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਨਹੀਂਗਾ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ women ਹੀ abuse ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ, men ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ abuse ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ। ਔਰ ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਗੇਨ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਹੈਗਾ ਆਪਣਾ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਤੌਰ ਤਰੀਕਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ, ਉਹਦੇ ਅਕੋਰਡਿੰਗਲੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਹ ਚੇਂਜਸ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਲਿਆਉਣੀਆਂ ਪੈਣੀਆਂ, ਚੇਂਜਸ ਕਰਨੀਆਂ ਪੈਣੀਆਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਔਰ ਸੋਚ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਸੋਚ ਨੂੰ ਬਦਲ ਕੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਤੁਰਨਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਦੋ ਰਾਏ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਕਿ ਆਪਣੇ ਹੁਣ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਲਾਕਡਾਊਨ ਹੋਇਆ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਸਟੇ ਐਟ ਹੋਮ ਸ਼ੈਲਟਰ ਹੈਗਾ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਇਹ ਸਮੱਸਿਆਵਾਂ ਉੱਭਰ ਕੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆ ਰਹੀਆਂ।
Yes, it's a lot of not just adults, children as well that are at home and not in good situations. My heart breaks thinking about that. So what can we really do? I really think with the Hidden Wealth, I know that was a part of our plans, and we've got stuff going on right now, but we are going to be asking individuals from within the Indian community to step up and see if you'd be interested in getting training so that we can form a support system from within the community, and not just women. We want men as well, because there is a process and a way to help people with domestic violence, and a lot of us need that education. And it's nice to know that we've got organizations like the Marjorie Mason Center and others that are willing to help us with that. But we need to step up and be better as a community.
I think ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਹੈਗਾ ਜਾਂ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਸੋਚ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਮੇਨ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਇਹ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ, ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਜਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉੱਥੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਿ ਨਿਕੋਲ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਟ੍ਰੇਨਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਰੈਡੀ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਊਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਬੋਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਣ ਔਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਹੈਗਾ, ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਸਮਝਾ ਸਕਣ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਦਾ ਫਾਇਦਾ, ਇਹਨਾਂ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਦਾ ਫਾਇਦਾ ਚੁੱਕ ਸਕੋ। ਜੇ ਅਗੇਨ ਜੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਨੂੰ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਸੋਲਵ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਆ। ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੰਨਾ ਸਹਿਣਾ ਜਾਂ ਇੰਨਾ ਚੁੱਪ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆ, ਔਰ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਿ ਨਿਕੋਲ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੱਕ ਅਬਿਊਸਿਵ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ, ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅਬਿਊਜ਼ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਵੀ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਅਵੇਲੇਬਲ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਸੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਵੀ ਅਵੇਲੇਬਲ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਿੰਗ ਅਵੇਲੇਬਲ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਬਹੁਤ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਅਵੇਲੇਬਲ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਜਸਟ ਇੱਕ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਨਹੀਂਗਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅਬਿਊਜ਼ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅਬਿਊਜ਼ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ, ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਵੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਅਵੇਲੇਬਲ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ। ਔਰ ਨਾਲੇ ਦੂਸਰੀ ਗੱਲ ਇਹ ਆ ਕਿ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਤੋਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਜ਼ੁਲਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆ, ਜੇ ਉਹ ਮਾੜਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਜ਼ੁਲਮ ਸਹਿਣਾ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਵੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਮਾੜਾ ਆ। ਸੋ ਜ਼ੁਲਮ ਨਾ ਤਾਂ ਕਰੋ, ਪਰ ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੇ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਤੇ ਸਹਿਦੇ ਆ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ, ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸ਼ਹਿ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਉਸ ਇਨਸਾਨ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਗਲਤ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ। ਸੋ ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆ ਇਹ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਦਾ ਫਾਇਦਾ ਚੁੱਕੋ। ਹਿਡਨ ਵੈਲਥ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੇਜ ਉੱਤੇ ਆ, ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ, ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਹਿਡਨ ਵੈਲਥ ਦੇ ਪੇਜ ਤੇ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ। ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਉੱਥੇ ਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਹੈਲਪ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮਾਰਜੀ ਮੇਸਨ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟਲੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ। ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਿਸੇ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੀ ਹੋਰ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਆ, ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹਿਡਨ ਵੈਲਥ ਫਾਊਂਡੇਸ਼ਨ ਦਾ ਫੇਸਬੁੱਕ ਪੇਜ ਹੈਗਾ ਜਾਂ ਸਾਡੀ ਵੈਬਸਾਈਟ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਉੱਤੇ ਵੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ।
Yes, and especially if you have children. You may not love each other, but I think every parent out there loves their children. And I'm going to tell you, children watch everything that goes on in that home. And if it's violent, they're going to be more likely to repeat that in their lives. So please think about your kids, if not for yourselves. A lot of times people think even stuff like a separation or divorce and stuff like that affect the kids. More than that, what affects the children is the relationship that you two have. Kids could care less about anything else, but how you behave as a couple and how you treat each other is huge. They're constantly watching. So if not for you, for the sake of your children, if you know that it is not a healthy environment for them, please seek help. And there is no judgment. There is nothing. Actually, I honor anybody that steps up and says, hey, we need help. So please reach out to us. We're here, and we will try to put you in touch with as many resources as we possibly can.
I think that's true, and ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਵਿਊਅਰਸ ਦੇ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ ਵੀ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਆ, ਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਹੋਣਗੇ, ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟਸ ਹੋਣਗੀਆਂ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਏਰੀਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਜੋ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਆਊਗੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਲਦੀ ਤੋਂ ਜਲਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਸ਼ੇਅਰ ਕਰਿਆ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਤੇ ਅਗਲੇ ਐਪੀਸੋਡ ਤੱਕ, ਅਗਲੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਤੱਕ, ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ।
Let's take